Right then, it is very, very, very late, but we have something to talk about. So the audio might be a little bit sketchy because I'm being a bit quieter than usual. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we've got stuff to talk about. So recently there's been a load of interviews from Naoki Hamaguchi, the director of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and he's been talking about, Part 3 and Rebirth and stuff like that. And there's been some interesting things that have come out of it. I've not read all of the interviews yet. There's still some that I need to get round to, so there is going to be a video probably in the next week or so where I look at all of them. But this popped up today, and I've just got to talk about it a little bit. So like the video, subscribe for future content, but let's jump into it. So an interview's dropped in the last 24 hours that was conducted around the time of Tokyo Game Show, and it's an interview with a group called WCCF Tech. I'll put the link in the description so that you've got all the details and you can go and read the full article. And this is probably the one that's got the most interesting comment so far that I've seen, at least. Most of the interviews have been the same stuff that we've been hearing all along, nothing new, keep people guessing. But this one was interesting. So the interviewer asked, are there any plans for a DLC to bridge the gap between Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and the third title in the remake project, in the same way that there was a DLC with Intergrade? And Hamaguchi's response is that there were definitely some ideas to create a Rebirth DLC. That was the plan at one point, but when we revisited the topic and thought about priorities and what the fans are looking forward to the most, we figured that what fans want the most is the third instalment as soon as possible. That would take priority over a Rebirth DLC, so we decided to take that approach. Everything's fine so far. This is all stuff that we knew. But then Hamaguchi continues, with that being said, once we release the third instalment, there is a possibility of having a DLC for the third instalment. With the conclusion of the remake trilogy, there's probably going to be a much wider audience for Final Fantasy as a whole. Interesting. Whether we bring another new DLC or a full title, that's something we are actively considering. So let's just unpack that. First off, we already knew there wasn't going to be a Rebirth DLC. This was made clear to us about a year ago, if I remember correctly, so that's fine. As far as the possibilities for a DLC for Part 3, that's also something that I've kind of spoke about, and I've said that if there is going to be a DLC, it's not going to be until Part 3 is out. That's what I was expecting, and that once Part 3 was out, we'd probably get some DLC. So again, I'm not entirely surprised by this. But then the first thing that he says that's interesting is that, Final Fantasy is going to see a much wider audience after the remake trilogy is completed. That suggests to me maybe something big's coming that's going to be a big talking point and maybe drag a lot of people in. Maybe they're just saying that the spectacle of Remake Part 3 is going to be enough to drag people in. I'm 50-50 on whether that means anything more. I'm not too sure. Let me know what you're thinking, obviously, on all of this in the comments below. But the thing that set me off the most is this possibility for a full title. Because that could mean a couple of things. It could mean more Final Fantasy VII, which we'll get to in a minute, but it could also mean a full title as in working on a new Final Fantasy, potentially. I'm not too sure. We need some clarification on that. And I am at London Comic Con on Friday, and so is Naoki Hamaguchi, so if I get the opportunity, I might see if I can get some clarification on that. I'm probably not going to, but I'm going to try. We'll see what happens. But as far as talking about a new full title goes, it takes me back to something that I thought quite a while ago, around the time just after Remake came out. And this was the belief that I had, that they were going to need at least 4 games to do this story. Given the fact that they've still got so much ground to cover of the original game, and then they've got all this new stuff on top of it that they need to explain and pay off and things like that, I didn't think they could do it in 2 more games. I thought it was going to be 3 more games at least. But then that was cast aside because I believe it was Nomura who came out and said, no, it's a trilogy, 3 games. So that was the end of that. I stopped thinking. It was like, oh, it's only 3 games. Cool. They're going to do it. They're going to squeeze it in. But now, that may have changed. Anyway, let's talk about DLC first. As far as DLC possibilities go, there's some big favourites. You've got Vincent DLC. Everybody loves Vincent. A Vincent DLC would be great. Potentially a Sid DLC maybe as well, because Vincent and Sid, we get them, you know, we've not even controlled them yet. We're only going to be controlling them in part 3. So maybe they get a DLC to give them a bit of extra screen time. Maybe that's a thing. You never know. Wu-Tai is also a possibility, I think, for DLC, because they seemingly want to expand Wu-Tai quite a bit with the whole Glenn thing and everything like that, and the war and all that business. But I kind of expect most of that to come up in the main narrative, so maybe not a DLC, maybe something Advent Children related, maybe something weird and a bit more obscure, like maybe some live stream stuff, maybe a DLC where we interact with Knights of the Round. I don't know. Leave them in the comments below. Give me your ideas for what you think a DLC could potentially be for part 3. It's difficult because while we know what's going to happen in Remake Part 3, there's also that doubt of what's going to be different, because something's going to be different. There are going to be differences. There's a lot of things that they need to pay off, and it's what those differences are and what they add up to. So, you know, it's difficult to predict DLC until we kind of see how that pays off, if you know what I mean. But do your best, you know, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I've thrown a few out there. But now let's circle back to the big one, and that is, what could a 4th game be? And I don't know, man. There's a lot of possibilities for this, really. I mean, the first thing that I'm thinking is maybe we finish Remake Part 3, staying true to the OG narrative mostly, like we kind of did in Rebirth, but then something at the end of Remake Part 3 happens and sets us up for a 4th game. Maybe that happens. Maybe we get something that could directly connect to Advent Children. Maybe we get something completely separate, and maybe it's an additional part of the compilation. Maybe it's some post-Advent Children stuff. Maybe it's some post-Dirge stuff. Maybe it's some more prequel stuff. You know, there are a lot of options for what kind of stuff, what kind of thing, what kind of narrative this 4th game potentially could cover. I'm 50-50 on whether he actually means a 4th game as in something directly connected to Final Fantasy VII, but then again, why would he say anything else? Do you know what I mean? I'm going to try and get some clarity on this if I can on Friday. We'll see how it goes, but this is the most interesting comment by far that I've seen from Hamaguchi on this round of interviews. I haven't read all of them yet, so maybe there is something that I've missed still, but this solidly confirming that there is a good chance that we'll get some sort of DLC after Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, but not only that, that there might be another game. I've said this in a few videos that I think that once the remake project's done, that will have seen the end of Final Fantasy VII, and that'll be it. They'll, you know, draw a line under it, move on. This seems to suggest otherwise. So anyway, it's very late, I've rambled enough, I'm going to quickly edit this now and get it uploaded. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. Do you think we will get a DLC? Do you think we will get a 4th game? And what do you want to see from either a DLC or the full game? Yeah, that'll do. Tell me about that. Like the video, subscribe for future content, but more importantly than all of that, have a great day.